I'm gonna present you the solution, an open source solution we are working on at Multi, the tech cooperative, French tech cooperative we recently created in 2022. Just before that, just mind me a little game. The game is called What is the current crisis? It's a very open question. Do you have a crisis in mind? Some? No, no, nobody. Everybody lives in a perfect world. I'm seeing, yeah. The crisis of democracy. Yeah, another one in the public. Yeah. Global warming. Yeah, this is Jeopardy. Another one, Ukraine, COVID, subprimes, call it what you want. There is always a crisis going on, and we are just quoting the crisis we see the most in the media. And on top of that, you can have another crisis in mind, just local crisis of housing, health, and during COVID-19, I was a part of a small team, and we tried to respond to the crisis with the means we had in our hands, saying that we needed to list just very simply all the responses to the crisis we could identify on the web. Like there were a lot of people, for instance, sharing maps, blue maps for technical instruments. There were initiatives of all kinds. And the first thing people were doing lists on a table, like an Excel table or whatever, and trying to share all this knowledge coming from the ground up to the most of the people they were knowing at the time. So Datami is a kind of parent of this kind of initiative, and this is how it goes. So if you want to take a look at the presentation itself, just please feel free to scan or to go to this URL. But the way we see that, I'll let you a couple of seconds to scan that if you want. But the main objective of Datami is to help people share their data in one way. This is a way that is simple, cheap, and the most directly thought for that kind of people. Not technical people, but any people. So there are some challenges when you have that in mind. Just not trying to build a tool for technical people, but for any kind of people. The challenges are the following. You need to make your data intelligible. So to illustrate that, for most people, perhaps not in this scene, but in general, data has the form of that kind of stuff with a lot of stuff inside, and quickly people can be really overwhelmed by the kind of shape data takes in the digital world. So the idea is to make that intelligible in one way or another. The second thing is to make updating and contributing easier for most of the people. In our world, we use Git, and we know that we can improve the data step by step, peer reviewing, etc. But for most of the people, contributing to a table means usually erase what was before in the table. Yeah, and yeah, I'm gonna skip that. And the third challenge is making all the what I've shown you before, all the challenges, in a way the tool you're creating is cheap, really cheap, because usually the association who have to share their data, their knowledge, etc., have a very, very tight budget. So it's not only a question of budget, it's also a question of lack of resources of any kind, like lack of skills, lack of time, lack of funding, lack of confidence also in digital tools. So before speaking about Datami, we are a very small team, and the project is quite recent. We opened the first version of Datami last September, something like that, and it's still going on. We are a very tight organization. We are five employees, 6 employees and 5 associates in Multi. Multi is a tech cooperative. It means that we have a horizontal way to govern our cooperative, but also everything we produce is open source and aiming at making open data a little bit easier for most of people. So that's me. I'm not gonna, you'll show that I don't like to speak about me. So Datami is a way to respond to those challenges. So I'm gonna let you watch that. Without the sound, I think it's not really interesting. The sound is just a music. But it mainly resumes what are the challenges we have here. So it addresses any kind of organization, small, big, usually or even individuals, and to find a way to propose them a tool that is cheap, simple, directly usable, and also that respects the main standards we have today to share data. To share and also to edit. Yeah. So in a few clicks, the main goal of Datami is to be able to create maps, diagrams, catalogs like that from a very simple table like a CSV, but also from JSON files or very standard file system. The very philosophy somewhere of Datami is also to be as low-tech as possible. It's not a question about having the latest standards and etc. The public we are aiming to is the public without a lot of technical knowledge. So everything is about very low-tech standards. Oh. So from a spreadsheet, from a CSV, the goal is to go from a spreadsheet to that, to be able to create maps quite easily. It's also a way to explore a data set as easily as possible with different kind of views, like with the cards, with the maps, with the diagrams. And also to be able to propose a tool that you could configure to really reflect the very originality of your data. So that is the very slide about what we find a kind of innovative with a very small letters. But we wanted to create a widget, a web component you could integrate anywhere, but a widget is a front project. The thing is, we wanted also people to have the full control over their data. So to keep this full control over the data and also to make data storage very cheap, we started to use Github or Gitlab as data storage and use their APIs to request and to get to post on this data, and use GitHub or GitLab also with their capacity to version the data. So if we have had to develop a system to store the data and also to keep version versioning log of everything that's going on a dataset, that would have been quite impossible with our small team. So that's why we focused on creating the front for people with no knowledge of Git at all, and to propose them to store their data on a GitHub or Gitlab organization. So that's how we keep data storage cost at 0. And the advantage of that is we can also store on GitHub or Gitlab anything related to the specificities of this dataset in particular, like a schema. Like we use frictionless standards about table schemas to make possible to visualize all the datasets, but according to a schema. So it could respect something like the best standards for that kind of price. So I spoke to you about the capacity of integrating Datami outside your own website. The thing is, we don't have to deploy one Datami per dataset. Datami is a generic widget solution, so you can configure inside the HTML which schema you're going to use or which dataset you want to show, and the widget itself could be deployed at just one place to explore any kind of dataset or variety of dataset. So that is a kind of extract of the way we use Datami also to contribute to datasets. It simply use the process we usually use with GitHub or GitLab. It means like when a user wants to make a modification on a dataset, somehow Datami makes a new branch on the target dataset, new branch, new commit, new PR on the same time, and just the user doesn't have any idea of that is going on, but that allows us to keep track of the different versions of the dataset. And somehow we can also use different kind of data visualization on one dataset to complete that kind of variety of views, of UIs, to explore one dataset in particular. So, to sum up, there is only 1 minute left, but we had this kind of specs in mind when we wanted to develop Datami. So to be able to share, to valorize datasets, to make it 100% open. So we could use Matomo, we could use frictionless standards, we could use different kind of languages when you open when you use Datami to explore dataset, and so on and so on. So I'm going to skip that. If you want to check the full presentation, we can go to that. But I just wanted to show you a little exploration we did. This is this one. This is a benchmark. We consider that Datami is complementary to a lot of solutions already in use today, either open sourced or proprietary. The thing is, with the kind of people we had in mind, an association, individuals, small organizations, small administrations, we think there is a place, a niche market somehow, of organization that doesn't need big tools, but also needs to share what they're producing, or they don't need these big tools or too much technical tools, but they just need to share something, but simply without a lot of money in their pocket. But for this kind of organizations, small associations working on a very small territory, there is not a lot of open source tools they could use without a minimum of technical knowledge. If they don't have that kind of tool in hand, they have to replace that with I don't know, proprietary one, but that leads to a lot of problems of integrity, or I don't know, just sovereignty over the data, knowing they control the way the data is displayed, but also the way the data is stored itself. So I'm going to stop that to let some time for questions. I just want to thank OW2 for accepting this presentation, and also our sponsors. I'm going to show them here. There is a lot of some users right now, and we also had sponsorship from France Relance and the National Agency for Territories Coherence, I guess, ANCT, l'Agence nationale de la cohésion des territoires, to develop this first sprint on Datami. And we are very interested in knowing what you think of that, and if you have some use cases in mind, or if you want to know more, just don't hesitate to contact us, and thank you.